Maybe have them address one particular event and kind of rotate around and get started that way. Then we'll start directing traffic and maybe go different ways. Howard, do you have that you might want to share with us that being here, especially something associated with the sand dunes, is there an event or something that you might want to tell us? One particular thing?
Oh, I think there in April 1936. And that Sunday I was in Oakland trying to deal with the sand.
And you came from where?
Greensboro, Pennsylvania.
And did you come here to work? Did you have a job, or were you looking for? So there's a change of climate. And did it help?
Yeah, she lived to be 65. She only had 3 or 4 months to live back there in Pennsylvania.
Well, someone told me, and I might have Fred cage this question, but there was, the way I heard it, there was some bootlegging going on over here in the, well, you start to say, yeah, Fred, was asking that question because you were telling me about it. What was the deal?
There was some moonshining. Do you remember any moonshining going up, I think it was Sawmill, Scope, on the dunes, either one of you, Bill or Howard?
Yeah.
You remember some bootleggers up in...
That was the late 20s. Late 20s. That was Matson, and I don't remember the other fellow's name. They homesteaded 160 acres just north of the Wellington place. And they got picked up about 1928. Well, moonshiners.
Oh, yeah?
And they shot the bear. They did have the regular oil barrels that they were using up there. The law shot holes in those. We couldn't use them when we went in. We didn't get up there until, I think, 1929. One of the boys was over in Kansas City in the penitentiary, and we dealt with him to buy his cabin. Well, we tried to buy a little relinquishment on the 160 acres, and we couldn't buy it because there was talk about that there might be a park formed with the Sand Dunes National Monument. And so the government wouldn't let us buy the relinquishment. They turned us down. But we did buy the cabin for $50 from Matson, and I can't remember the other boy's name.
No.
Who?
No.
Nolan?
No.
No, no.
Now, where was this?
That was in 19, we bought the cabin.
Where?
What else was
Where, Grandpa?
No.
Where?
What else was that?
Sawmill or Buck Creek?
No.
Sawmill. Okay.
Yeah, Sawmill, no.
Just north of the
And, you see, there was no stream going down there, but you went about 100 yards up from the cabin, and there was a little water. And that's where they had their sticks.
What were they using for fermentation? Was they potatoes or pinion nuts, or what were they using?
They're using corn.
Oh, corn.
No, they're using corn and barley to distill.
Oh, yeah.
And we never did see the still. It was all gone. I think the Wellingtons probably took that when they went up in
Oh, yeah.
I think Charlie Wellington was one of them in on the rest of the boys when we picked them up.
Oh.
And that was the early history of our purchase of that cabin up there.
Was making alcohol at that time during Prohibition, was that not uncommon in the valley?
I never moved like myself, nor never moonshine. I did buy some. In case we had several good bootleggers in the valley, but the boys, what they had up there, I wouldn't want to ever bought them their liquor because they weren't using copper at all, they used all steel. We had a moonshine over in here at that time that, made some liquor, but, you take Johnny Lewis in, west of Black Band, and, John Copeland up in the Crestone area, Mary's area, were the two principal bootleggers in this country at that time. These boys were just kind of trying to fall in line and make a little money on the side. And, I know Casselman and Nolan were in hopes that they could help make a living off selling a little moonshine out of that still that they were putting up on this homestead, as we homesteaded.
What year did you come here?
I came here in 1923 from southeastern Nebraska. I shipped in here. The first year I was in the valley was in 1919. And I was out here again in 21. Just I spent a week or 10 days here each time. And my dad had bought a place in 1918 there at Munster. I came out in an immigrant car in 1923. A lot of people have asked me, what's an immigrant car? I don't know how many people here know what an immigrant car is. Not very many people do. I've had people that I thought surely ought to know what an immigrant car was. It's common knowledge to me. An immigrant car, the railroad in the early days used to furnish special rates if you shipped all your belongings out here in a car. And that's what an immigrant car was. I rode out here in a boxcar with 4 head of horses, 2 cows, I think 4 pigs, and another fellow and I spent a week on the train from eastern Nebraska to get out to Alamosa. You know, on Saturday morning we unloaded and loaded up our stuff. In fact, I rented a wagon from Roscoe Mullings in order to get all my stuff loaded on a hay rack, and we pulled up to Moscow about 9 o'clock at night with 6 inches of snow on the 18th day of March 1923. That's when I landed in this country to stay. I came out as a bachelor. I was engaged to be married, but I didn't have enough money in my pocket to pay for the preacher and the license, so I had baxed out here for 2 years, and I couldn't stand that, so I went back and took me a wife in 1925. And I lived over in Moscow during that time. And then in about 1927 and 28, I got acquainted with Howard. He was working for Bethlehem in Alamosa, and we finally got together and bought this cabin from Nolan and Matson. And that's where we spent and raised we had $2 a piece. We raised our youngsters on the side of the sand dunes, and when the park came in, they molested us an awful lot. In 1937, I got 3 letters from the Park Service. The first one told me we had to do something with the cabin. We had to dispose of it. Shortly after that, I got another letter about 30 days. You haven't done anything about disposing of the cabin. And the third letter I got says, we'll give you 30 days to, and I still got the letter, I can show it to you if I want to look for it. That says we'll give you 30 days or we'll burn the cabin down. I moved the cabin out. That was 1929.
Well, let's see, Burl, when did you come here?
I was 38 the first time, and back in 1960, I got last time. So, I've been here ever since.
Yeah.
I've seen part of this country down here.
Well, Bill, when you were back in Moscow, what did you do for entertainment?
Oh, various things. We went to Alamosa and played pool. And we were pretty well acquainted with Johnny Lewis and Copeland. I mentioned their names a little bit ago. We were pretty well acquainted with them.
Did they have some dance halls where you could meet some nice ladies, or did you have to go all the way back to the house?
Well, I'll tell you this. In those days, you had to dance every week someplace. You could almost go to a dance every night if you wanted to. In Moscow or in Alamosa, you could always go on Saturday night to Alamosa.
Did they have grain halls here? grain? Did they have, like they used to have in Nebraska, grain phones?
Grange, yeah. We didn't have a Grange, unit here. The closest Grange, I think, was up at Village Road. They had a home up there. And the Grange had a lot of dances, a lot of celebrations. Yeah. They were very great about entertainment. That's about the time that the Farm Bureau was formed. The Farmers Union was a farm organization. And the Grange was that's the oldest farm organization, I think, that I know of.
Okay. I heard at a barber shop one time that Yule Gerard used to, every once in a while when he needed money, would run his cattle down to Blanca and roll them up and take them in and sell them. And can you tell me anything about Yule's and how
Yule's? We'll have to tell you about Yule's. I never want to forget the first time I met you. It was at Bensley's Ranch. About 1924, I rode up a horseback to his ranch. But after I was married in 1925, one Sunday, Mr. Casselman and I decided we would have a Sunday picnic over next to the sand. Well, you know, there used to be a swell spring right there on Monster Pass Creek. And we used to camp right to the side of that spring. And we were camped there that Sunday, and probably we'll say about 1 o'clock. Here come a fellow riding up just as hard as he could on a little old mule. Hopped off of that mule, the old mule came up and fell all fours, and he hopped off of that mule, and he jumped out, and here he had this little old stuffy revolver in his hand. What are you doing here? We're going to have a picnic dinner. Oh, and he brightened up. We offered him sandwiches. You know, he was the best friend you ever saw. But old Euless was quite a character, and everybody, you've heard a lot of stories about Euless, but one thing, if he told you something, you could depend on it.
What's your memories of Euless Gerard, Howard?
Well, I met him the first Sunday I was here. Came up with his standards, and he came down, and I said, well, you. From that time on, we invited each other to meet. And from that day, he invited us up to his place, anytime he could ask us. And speaking was pretty good at the creek then. So I went up there, and sure enough, I didn't take no fees for or nothing. He just went up for me.
Is that it?
And he came to stay at our house for a couple of winters. Come down and stay for a month or so. I was there in the house most of the time on Sunday morning. And we got along good. Most people couldn't get along with it, but I didn't have any trouble.
Why didn't most people get along with it?
Well, he was afraid, and he couldn't hear. If he couldn't hear, that made him mad. From there on, he was mad.
What was his homestead like when you visited?
Up there?
Yeah.
You seen the remains of the log cabin up there?
Yes.
Well, he was living in one of them. The one, as you go down the path toward the creek, the one on the right-hand side. And he lived there for years.
And did he have a hatchery or
Yeah.
raise some trout in there?
Yeah, he raised fish.
Well, was that big house built in at that time? Now, what was the story of the big house? Was that his house? I mean, did he build it?
No, his grandkids were.
Okay.
Well, he had started, actually Julia was the one that built the big house, Julia and the boys. You see, she had the homestead down where your homestead, where your cabin is. And she built her cabin there, and then in the last days of Euless's life, they built this nice two-story house.
Now, who's Julia?
That is his daughter.
Okay.
No. Julia Williams. You see, she lived in Canyon City when I first came out here. And she married John Williams with her. And they had the two boys.
Well, I heard a story that said he had a lifelong feud with the Forest Service because someone had run off with one of the Forest Service his sweetheart or somebody, is that not true, or is that just part of the great myth?
He didn't like the Forest Service because he took the park in, and they wouldn't let him graze the cattle on it. That's the reason he didn't like the Forest Service.
Okay. That's a really good story, but. Is that right? Did he have people working for him?
One guy.
One person?
One person. And, the last one he had working for him was a colored guy. What was his name?
Jackson? Jackson?
I don't remember. He wasn't much of a hard help.
What about that water wheel that he had up there? What's that? That water wheel. That water wheel. Oh. Yeah, he had that. Built that water wheel. What did he use it for? No, I know. I heard that he used it to run a cream supplement, and I don't think he ever knows the cow in his life. No, I think I heard it was the intention to put water in his house. Well, anyhow, it was made like a ball mill. It had two wheels on each side. Yeah. And there's about maybe 30 inches or 24 inches, and steel plates on it. It had one that was opened up. It looked like it had a way to put the rock and it kept rolling it to metal, like really long. Because he tried mining all over the that's what it was for. And then the whole he done round over there. That's part of the park here. He does. And then I heard he used it to make up grapes for wine. Make up grapes for wine. Oh, yeah, but the major, the wheel is still out. Yeah, I guess it is. Yeah, I haven't seen it the last so many years, but last time I was there, it's still there. Yeah, it's still. Well, what was the guy's name that the neighbor right east of him that had his cousin? Ladies or babies or lady, wasn't it? That was someone over here with his relatives, wasn't it?
Well, Euless' dad, the homesteader, right after the Civil War, about 3 miles up above the old Euless cabin.
Yeah.
And that's the only one I ever knew lived back up in there. For us, to own all that, you might say from National Pass on down.
He took that 40-acre country, homestead, one on each side of the creek, right on down the creek. I wanted to run the whole work street. You couldn't look there.
They only clear on down almost to Fort Boundary, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, they only clear down to Fort Boundary, that was, and then after Euless passed away is when the Forest Service bought in there for his property. After the park was formed.
Yeah, that park was formed at 15 years. He sold to the park before that.
Well, maybe, yeah, I don't know.
Was he using the air trumpet when you knew him?
Yeah.
Did he carry it with him?
And no cow horn.
He didn't have that horn with him, he used it. Well, Euless would come down and when he'd ask you a question, he would always put his hand up to his ear, and you knew right away he couldn't hear hardly anything you said.
Would he have ever maybe killed a deer out of season or anything like that?
I wouldn't have any idea.
Is that kind of a sensitive subject, Bill?
No. You never could go up there with what you had plenty of meat to eat, and it wasn't beef.
He was a good shot? Were there always sheep up in that, wild sheep up in that area?
Yeah. So he prized that bunch of sheep. That was one of his prime joints was that band of sheep up there. I never will forget the first cheap advertisement. Euless had gone over to Fort Garland, and the fellow he had working for him and helping him up there that summer in the hay. When Euless went to Fort Garland, why, he had promised the fellow down at Alamosa, if he ever got a chance, he'd fly out, or he'd bring him a head of a big orange sheep. And he stopped at my place one day, and he had that head with him. And he was headed for Alamosa. He got $100 for that. And sheep's head, which is a complete circle, complete horn, right around. And he gave me a piece of that meat. That's the first time I ever ate any sheep, wild sheep.
Mostly he had it all dry. He'd hang it out on a wire out the back of his house. Yeah.
Oh, he was proud of that band of sheep. If he'd ever known that fella, had killed that buck, I doubt if he'd ever been up there at that ranch again.
Howard, somebody told me that you did some flying over the sand and that you were actually in an airplane?
Yeah.
Now,
I was playing on.
you had your own plane?
Yeah. Did a lot of flying up around here.
About what years were those?
From 40 to 47, I think I had that flying.
Now, I hate to ask this question, but was that open cockpit? Was it open?
No.
It was closed.
No, it was called.
Okay, you remember what kind it was?
Yeah, 140.
So you've seen the sand dunes from all aspects there.
Yeah. Right.
There's one little story that I think I better tell you. We went up, you know, there used to be a bunch of lakes on Sand Creek, where Sand Creek came out of the mountains. There's a series of lakes in there, and of all the years that one was pretty good up in there. And Howard and I one Sunday borrowed some horses, and we rode back there. There was a third fellow with us. And we rode back there and duck hunted, and before we left, or when we left, we looked over towards the Mackinac Pass and did look very far across the sand, so we decided we'd ride across the sand and hit Mackinac Road and go on down to the cabin. We got about the middle way and began to get along towards evening. We left right back in the road, it was at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and about 5 o'clock we began to get sundown, you know, maybe just a little later this during duck season. And so we decided maybe we better head towards the south end of the sand. We was towards the north end. We rode a horseback to our cabin. We got to the cabin about 8 o'clock that night, and we sure thanked the lights of Alamosa that night. That was our guiding picture. We could see the lights in Alamosa from on top of those sands. And I'm telling you, if you ever want an experience, just ride a horseback across those sands. You run into some of the most beautiful little meadows down at the bottom of those sand dunes you ever saw. And that's where a lot of Ulysses cattle used to winter, was in those pockets in the sand dunes where that grass used to grow.
Was there water?
We rode the length of the sand dunes to horseback one evening.
Was there water in with those ponds?
Water?
Yes.
No, I think they live mostly on snow. I think it was snow water is what they had mostly. Most of that grass is grasses that grow along sloughs and stuff like that in the Illinois.
Howard?
I was up in there a couple of years ago, and there was water in those lakes.
In the pond.
Yeah.
Was there lakes in that?
Yeah.
How long ago was that?
I didn't know.
Oh. When you were flying over the dune mass, do you remember seeing evidence of the Liberty Stage Road?
It went along enough.
When you're behind the dunes, when you're in your Cessna flying over the dunes, did you ever see it? Did you see it from the air?
What's that?
The Liberty Stage Road. Was it visible? So you said it went over the south end of the dunes, not the north?
And we started at the north end of the dune. where Sand Creek comes off, you know. I'm not talking about Manhole Creek, I'm talking about Sand Creek. Those lakes are where.
No, I mean that stage road. Where was it?
Yeah, it went back to the sand. You take it.
From where to where?
When Casselman was, there was evidence of the old bridges and stuff in there when Casselman had his tour that went up back to the sand dunes, you know, and went around on, where the sand joins on the mountains, right around there to Liberty. That's what I understood was the old stage road that went around there.
Well, that bridge is up there yet.
Oh, on Little Medlock?
No. Yeah, so a little bit,
Yeah, it was on Little Map.
it's still there.
Okay.
Was the last time I was up there.
Didn't you tell me the state office was up there by Lewis's place?
Huh?
Didn't you tell me that the state office or depot or whatever you want to call it?
Oh, you was at state job there.
And he runs,
You was at his post office there too.
and there was state service to Liberty from Euless Place?
Did it come over Madden? Did it come over Madden on this?
No, it didn't come over Manhole, it came around the hill there from Liberty.
And then,
Across the Little
and
Manhole.
then down this way?
So the state didn't come over Medlock Pass.
Oh, no.
Came over Monster Pass.
Okay, well, Monster.
We're gonna edit this.
It was, say that again?
Road washed out in 1913.
On Monster Pass.
Well, from up there where it comes down now, you can come down this way, what, about a mile and a half?
4 miles.
4 miles from
To
the top.
the park.
And was the roadbed on the bottom of the creek bottom?
No, just on the side.
It was up on the side of the water.
Well, there used to be, I've been up there a long time, there used to be an old car, remnant of an old car up there. Yeah, it looked like it dated back.
About a mile and a half inside the top.
Is that, you seen it?
You got
Still there?
28 and one way forward. Yeah, that's the one that got to the creek, and we got out. Headed uphill, anyhow, down about 10 feet below the road there.
We
So
did.
you right in there.
I'd taken Sunday trips and gone back over past Creek, and went on up to Red Wing, and then off over Monster Pass. About a mile or so this side of the top of the pass, there was a hump well there, and that's a nice picnic ground. We used to picnic there, have a noon lunch there, and then drive back down and go up through West Cleveland and come around through Salida coming home.
Well, was there ever a car road over Muska that was used, or was it just adventurous people? Yes, Muska.
Yeah, it's a toll road.
Yeah, it was a toll road until 1912 or 13 when it was now.
And that's when, and then they didn't build it back. And then before that, it was a wagon road.
Yeah.
Because I know the Heilman, I talked to Mrs. Heilman, and I think either Roy or Jenny came over Muska. Seemed like it was Roy.
Did they come over in a wagon?
Yeah.
That's when they come over, yeah. You take this right here, this was an early Mormon settlement. The Zapata Ranch was one of the earliest Mormon settlements in the San Luis Valley. And those people came in over Manhole Pass.
Muska or that little Muska or Madden?
Muska.
Okay.
That's the part. Manhole never was an open road that I know of. Okay. There was a trail over that Euless used to use all the time from his ranch, and his dad used it before him. But the road into the valley was over Monster. And the early settlers came in and they located the gold up on the Rascal Canyon. And they started mining up there. Now the Kings and the Wellingtons and Dentons, yeah, all of them came in about the same time. I've had the Dentons and the Kings tell me about their early experiences in here.
Now, you was almost shot like that one time.
Yeah, what?
You was almost shot like that. And then I had been to Ben King when he would have shot him.
What was it over?
Well, it was over a cow or a bull.
Something important anyway.
A bull anyway.
What did him? did he brand, or did he just not worry too much?
I don't think he ever planned, I think he just let everything roll loose, and then what he lived through the winter while he
Yeah, he had a
survived, and what didn't, while he, bones was probably still there.
That's,
He never fed much hay, he didn't have much hay to feed.
But he had a nice little meadow just above his home there.
Yeah, but they don't feed much out of it. I think he had.
That's all the hay he ever fed and had it just for his mules and his horses.
and he didn't feed that to the cow.
No, he was.
No, his cattle never come in the hay.
If they had the winter fine, if they didn't, well, they would just short some cows in the spring. Do you remember what his brand was? You said you had a brand.
Yeah, lazy fish. I think it's registered in,
Well, yeah, that's a problem, but,
it was registered, I think, last in Jack, Bill's name, I don't know which one.
Bill Williams?
Yeah.
Howard, how did you happen to acquire your cabin up here in the park? When did you get that?
Well, in Julia days.
Huh?
You bought those cabins in Julia.
The cabins I got now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I bought them, but,
38, 39.
not 1940 I bought those cabins.
And who built?
Oh, you were still,
Oh, you was built, and were they built right there where they exist today, or were they?
Yeah. he built them for himself.
And did you live in them, or?
No,
Julia did.
Junior didn't live with me.
Well, not with
he
him,
lived in the house he built.
but she lived in the house.
Oh, yeah, she lived up there.
She and the boys were there.
Yeah,
Bill and Jack.
yeah. I was Jack was the first time I seen him, he wasn't like me.
He was pretty much a kid, I guess, when he came over.
Oh, yeah, 67 years old.
I'd like to ask you, fellows, since I have been associated with the health, dentistry and medicine, can you tell me about some of your early medical doctors? Remember some of their names? And like, did you ever break any bones out here? And did you go to the hospital and like we do now? Or? It's got a little bit of a crook to it.
Dr. Chucky's up there.
Dr. Chucky. Well, tell me a little bit about when people were sick and when people had broken bones. We even get our houses so we can get to the hospital anymore, but it seems like the way you guys live, that wasn't a big problem.
No, it really wasn't.
When you talk about early day doctors, I can think more of what happened in Nebraska when I was a kid, when you just had a horse and buggy. You either rode a horseback or you got a horse and buggy and headed for the doctor. The doctor came out in a horse and buggy. But in this country, they always had an old Model T Ford or something to get around in. Dr. Dwyer was the first doctor I ever doctored with in Alamosa.
I've heard of Dr. Dwyer.
And he was the first doctor that we contacted the first year I was married. Before that, I didn't need a doctor. We had fellows like Copeland and Gunny Lewis around, well, you gotta be a doctor. Yeah, that was the...
Well, did you ever go to the hospital in Alamosa?
Yeah, the first time I was in the hospital in Alamosa was in 1934. I believe it was 34. I had a nervous breakdown, was in the hospital in Alamosa, and that's where they, well, I guess Atchison's in there now.
Yeah, right. That's
That's where it was, in that area someplace. And, Dr. Dwyer took care of me. And Ada Andrus had just come into the valley, and I was one of her first patients. Ada and I were always pretty good friends, and I thought a lot of Ada. I think a lot of you people know Ada. She was a nurse, she was county nurse, and
okay.
for years. And, she just left the valley about a year ago and went down to Tucumcari with her granddaughter. But,
Well, how did they treat that in those days? Did they give you medicines or?
oh yeah, they had, certain types of medicine, I don't know what they had in it, but it seemed to work.
And Howard, did you ever go to the hospital?
No, I never been, not until here a couple years ago. I don't know.
Not, you know, well, he was good, but,
Well,
I did go to, oh, I had too much trouble with my stomach. I went up there to Denver, and there was a doctor up there that got in there and cut those nerves, and it cured me.
what about dentists? Do you remember any, almost a dentist that you?
Yeah, Jones was one.
Jones and Rex? They were together.
Churchill and
Churchill?
yeah, I remember just before you came to the valley. It was Doc Churchill and then Doc, was the other
Wilbur? Wilbur? Churchill, Wilbur, Davis?
Davis was here. But, who was with Churchill when they first came? Brent, Doc Brent.
Right.
They had, well, I think they were up in the, had offices in the Masonic building and the Legion building.
Right.
It's where they had offices upstairs, both of them. Doc Churchill, I used to go to Doc Churchill back, the first time I ever went to you was from Doc Churchill after Doc Churchill died. That was like a couple of years ago. You were retired since then.
And I went over there at the hospital so I can get help.
Come in here, who ran his office with you at the same time? There's another doctor with you.
Oh, that's ancient history. I had several.
This is all? Anyway, Howard, do you remember a mining outfit at the dunes trying to extract, something?
They had one down here, particularly.
Yes, sir. What kind of an operation did they have?
They had a big cable run across through, up in the dunes. With one end of it. And they had a building down here that was supposed to separate the gold from the sand, which was the cable.
Were they gonna wash it? Would they wash it, the sand away and the gold and everything? Oh, okay. Yeah.
George Obenthal.
Yes,
George Obenthal started that.
And then, was there more than one operation? Was there more than one operation?
Yeah, when the sand dunes started, they had to move out. George died about that time, and for a reason that George Obenthal started it. I know he tried to sell me some stuff in his company. I didn't have any money any more than anybody else. And then, he lived in Blanket, and was quite prominent over Blanket and Fort Garland. And Jimmy Pilcher was a lawyer now most of the time, and he's pretty much enthusiastic about that development. Jimmy Pilcher was a lawyer now most. And I know Jimmy came in one time, he's been over there, and he says, you know, you got this as much gold in your ranch out here as there is over there on Sand Dunes. I said, no, but he says, you have. He owned the quarter about a mile east, 2 miles east of me. And he said, there's just as much gold in all that land in that most country there was in Sand Dunes, and I think he's right. That magnetic iron and it's different from being separated. Yeah. And this George Obenthal at one time tried to get a glass factory started over there to supplement his gold operation. And but he couldn't get any glass people interested in developing glass over there because all the glass on the count of the magnetic iron was a blue glass instead of a clear. He couldn't make clear glass out of that sand. No, he had hopes of, old George had hopes of running all the sand dunes through his mill.
Taking angles down here to pick up that glass.
Magnetite?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, do you ever remember the drill?
The drill,
The drill, Libby? The drill.
the drill.
And he had an operation about that as well.
Oh, that new?
Does that ring a bell?
Yeah, this was quite a lot of road. Kick it, going down.
And was he the same type of operation with a shovel and 16 shovel?
Yeah, he just used the shovel.
Oh, oh,
Oh,
I see, yeah. And then what was the name of the company that had the cable out there?
Was George Open?
George Open, sorry, that was his stuff, okay.
That was his dream, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He sold stock, yeah. Yeah, I don't know who, but he tried to peddle stock. I know he tried to sell leasing stock. And he formed a stock company, Blanket. And I don't know. I never knew any other name besides Open Car.
When you were knocking around these parts, who had this place? Who lived in this place?
Oh, this is Linger.
Linger.
Yeah, this house here was built just a recent year, but and the old log house down there where we were, where he had lunch, that was closed most of the year because the Linger that lived in Denver, the attorney, that was his summer home. And he came down there and stayed most of the time while the Lingers owned that. Lyman and Howard and Earl were up on the Madno farm. But Earl sold out in about 1925 or 26 to the other boys, and he went on with his own, and Lyman and Howard owned that up there. But what was the other Linger boy's name, Roy in Denver? I should remember, but I don't. But this was his summer home down here to the family.
Well, who had the Madno?
You take Howard and Lyman ran it. See, the whole thing was together. Sylvester used to own all of his things. He used to brag, that is, the Sylvester boys used to brag about owning all the land from the railroad track, the Malamosa Railroad track, that's Blanket to Liberty. They had leases on all that, and they owned most of that on the side of ranches. And Lawrence Sylvester, L.B. Sylvester, used to talk to me a good deal about his experiences with the Madno and the Zapata and how they ran cattle all through. And then, you see, they had a summer ranch down on the Brazos. And they sold out, or they lost it out about 1905. And then I don't know just how soon the Lingers came in, but the Lingers, when I came to this country, Linger's father, the old man, I never did meet him. He had been killed in an airplane accident over at Colorado Springs. They came out of Colorado Springs, and the boys operated that ranch until they sold it to Malcolm Stewart.
Okay.
And then it's changed hands several times since then. But that's the history that I know of these two places.
Have you ever found an assay around the dunes? Or,
What?
Any artifacts? Or?
Yeah, that's another little story. Mr. Casselman and I built a new home on a ranch in 1936, and before we built the ranch, Howard and I had been on the backside of those dunes several times, and we knew where there was a lot of Maccabees and Monos. And one day after the dunes was formed, Mrs. Casselman, that was 1936 to be exact, Mrs. Casselman one day called me up. She worked at the packing house at Alamosa. And she says, Lauren, this is the day we've got to take the trip over back to the sand. I had a Cadillac Touring. And so we dropped in at the park. It was a creek. It didn't want to rain like the sun was done. We dropped in and drove clear around the west side of the sand dunes and clear up to where these little lakes were on the sand creek.
In a Cadillac?
And what?
In your Cadillac?
Yeah, in the Cadillac. And we loaded these Maccabees and Monos up and have hauled them over home. And most of those you can find today if you would go over on that ranch and go in the den and look at the fireplace. We embedded them into the fireplace.
Oh.
And, made a veneer on the outside of the fireplace with it. And, we collected the back end of that Cadillac very well filled up. We had plenty of weight with it.
I found a lot of them stacking up over here.
Oh, yeah. He probably attacked us and found some of those up that we picked up.
Well, I told you where they were. So I made a monument out of them over here, just south of where the lakes are,
Oh. Where?
on the south side of the town.
Oh, okay. By the, Indian Springs, or which lake are you talking about?
Have you ever been over there yet?
Yes?
Well, the sand dunes is like a horseshoe. And all up in this hill is lit.
Yeah. Oh, okay. And you made a monument up in there?
Yeah. Go in where they were and keep them on the map.
Well, we put them to good use, and they're still in use today. You can go to that house and you find those in the daughter's model.
When was the last time, I'm sure this was earlier, but when was the last time they did mining up Sand Creek? I've seen those houses and places up, right at the mouth of Sand Creek, as you go up. Were those the people from Liberty at the same time that were mining in Sand Creek?
Oh, gosh.
I believe it was, but I'm not sure.
You did. That's the Liberty.
No, this side of Liberty.
Down the old Liberty?
Yeah, up Sand Creek.
This was down here.
Yeah, that's on the north side.
Yeah.
Liberty's on Sand Creek, too.
No,
That's north of Sand Creek.
it's just north. It's up, it's in a canyon there.
Well, we think about Liberty as dinner.
Yeah.
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 And this is below that, yeah.
This is this side and up Sand Creek, maybe half mile. Quite a bit of mining.
Well, is that the place that Simpson's owned? The Simpson boys own?
I think maybe so. Yeah.
I think it is. They own 160 acres in there, I know of.
Was that being mined in this century? Was it, did you hear about, or was that earlier?
That was before my
Because
time.
Liberty was earlier. They weren't mining up there.
So the only mining I remember of on the east side was up there on, there's one over south of Commodore, I think they call it the little Como, Lake Como.
No.
They've got a little river doing something up there when I first came.
Colorado is where they have the hard rock mine, well, yeah, much less than that.
That's the little town growing up there, Lake Como.
Yeah, yeah.
40 houses in that.
That was placer mining up there.
Well, that's all hard rock in, most of it in there.
Is that right?
I went to Commodore mine and half a dozen more around there.
Do you, there's all these stories about the dunes and legends and things. One of the popular stories about the web-footed horses. You know, the horses that get away from the ranches here and they go up on the sand and,
They had wild horses up here at that time.
Lots of wild horses all through this country.
oh, so they're all,
Up to an airplane.
oh, you did?
Yeah. When they got them out of here.
I can remember you take all along this range of mountains, we're on down to the forest house you want to go. There's wild horses all over that country, and the kids, that was a Sunday pastime, where the boys just ride out and chase the horses or catch some of those wild horses and try to ride them.
Is that?
You talk about the wet-footed or the snowshoe horses. That was one of the first stories I heard when the valley got the valley. They got on the sand dunes and their hooks got so long, they called them snowshoe horses.
Just long hoops because they had nowhere to wear them off.
Oh, because it's not sand.
Yeah.
So then,
That's just like the story about the damned sheep and the herder, and the herders actually walked over there in a windstorm one time, and they never did find any evidence of any of them.
so you don't think that there's a herd of sheep buried in the dune land?
Well, it could be. That's one of the early stories.
When we core, we're going to find a sheep.
The bears, that got lost. And when the Jim Truckle that found the chain when he was manager up there at the sand dunes. He found this surveyor chain, and this surveyor was supposed to have been lost in there, and then they did find a portion of a telescope and this chain when Jim Truckle was here. So that's the only thing I ever got about those early stories. I heard all kinds of stories when I first come out here about the snowshoe horses and the bandit that got lost, and the surveyor that got lost.
Oh, yeah.
Did you see any of those horses?
How long their hooves, yeah.
With the what?
Did you see any of the horses and were their hooves?
Oh, yeah, I've seen the horses with along the book.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but they stay in the sand all the time, there's no way to wear them off.
Yeah,
And they just grow out long, real long.
yeah. When you rounded these horses up with the airplane, where, and were you working for somebody, did they want these horses for some reason, or just the park for them? They, people,
One of the bosses, he was one of them horses. I rounded him up for it.
Well, you said that they had a big roundup, you know what happened, neither one time, and sold 1,000 of them at one time.
1,000 Mustangs.
Now, there's 1,000 Mustangs that they had rounded up. That was the last time I heard of it, in a great amount of wild horses. And what was the fellow in Alamosa that bought them, and they drove by my ranch there at Monster. Drove in right at the fish hatchery.
They drove them all the way up?
Yeah, drove up the road. And they had a big auction down at Avenida, and those that didn't buy the individual horses or teams, the rest of them, what was his name? We bought those horses. He was a prominent man around Alamosa. There was always dealing.
Was it weekend? Weekend?
No. All night before the weekend came in here about the same time I did. And this fellow, I think, was born and raised around the valley. You'd know his name if I could tell you. There's still some of them around Alamosa. What's the fellow that lost his legs and shoot the horses?
Martin?
Martin, yeah. It was one of the Martins. It was the old man.
Oh, yeah.
I bought that one of horses and drove them right at the fish hatchery.
Oh, yeah. You know, you talked about,
Jordan was.
and that'd be Floyd's father?
Yeah, Floyd's father.
Right. You talked about afternoon activities coming up and grabbing a wild frog. Did you ever participate in any of that?
No, I never went out with the boys. I never was much of a saddle horse man, and I never rode out with them. I know, Fight Swift started out.
Oh, yeah.
His brothers, in fact, that's where his second oldest brother was Swift. Got crippled up, was out there. He broke his leg one day out there when they were chasing wild horses out east of Monster.
Oh.
He broke his leg, and that's the first time I ever heard about a doctor driving a pin in a femur bone to put him together, and he had a pin in there for several weeks.
Huh.
That was Bob. Harold.
Oh, yeah.
But you can't imagine how many wild horses there was in this valley. But even when I come here.
Well, you take that time that George Martin drove those up there. There was supposed to have been 1,000 head of horses that they rounded up on all this long as Saturday Christmas here.
That was the last round of horses.
What year would that be?
The late 20s sometime.
Late 20s. Now,
This last bunch was in the 40s.
Was it that late?
Yeah.
It could have been. I
The
don't know.
ones that I helped round up to the 40s.
oh, with planes, I think, yeah.
Or that.
I know I didn't
But
like
did they have a big sale after that deal?
Huh?
Did they have that big sale after that? You rounded those up.
I
Don't remember. Well, this sale I know is well advertised and was held in Avenida.
Did, people always, that come to the park always enjoy seeing the wildlife. Do you remember seeing mountain lions, bobcats, bears? Have you seen all of the above?
yeah, I know it's
Oh, yeah.
Ours, when their season was up deer hunting. And I went up to see Howard at their cabin, and nobody was there. And when I came back out just north of the Wellington Ranch,
Oh, yeah.
there was a big old cat standing out there sideways to me. I got out of the car and parked it, and I can still see that big old lion, his old tail just flopping back like that.
Oh, man. The Wellingtons were living at their place up until what year? In their homestead?
1928. No, a little later than that. No,
Which is that?
Wellington.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh yeah, he was there until the late 30s. He must have been.
And did he built that ditch, right, that Wellington ditch. Now, did he ever run water through that thing? Do you remember?
And that it worked very
That's where he tried to north pass.
Now, what was he trying to do? I'm trying to figure out, like, he trying to divert Monster Creek to his
to
his ground.
irrigated land.
Okay, for pasture or
No, irrigated
For hay?
anything.
or anything?
Yeah.
Okay.
They had a pretty good sized garden.
Well, did he never level the place for pasture,
No.
but he built that ditch.
Yeah.
Now,
I think he planned on doing the sub irrigation properly.
oh,
More on sub than anything else through a little road.
oh, right.
That property worth a lot more too.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Were you around when he was digging that ditch?
Yeah.
Somebody said he never used to stick a dynamite, is that true?
That's right.
He never used a piece of
That's what
dynamite.
I know of.
And so it was all by hand,
Yeah.
blasting through that, or just picking through that rock.
Yeah. You don't think that.
And he was set in his ways, I guess, or his determination. Yes. No wonder he couldn't hire anybody. Who would want that? Any questions that anybody would like to ask?
I was wondering if they remembered any stories about the buffalo. When they came in the valley, people were still telling stories about when the buffalo was there before.
Okay, do you remember when you first arrived in the San Luis Valley, stories about the buffalo that was here? You never?
I've heard stories about it, but I don't know what it's doing.
What stories did you hear?
If it was in here in these early thousands of
There's a large herd of buffalo, and long before you came?
I think we had the most of them killed off at the time I got here.
Yeah.
Now, you take, that was back, I imagine, before the turn of the century, because you see, the Indians used to come in here, and this was a wildlife setup for them.
Mm-hmm.
And driving around on the west side of the stand, there's three distinct areas of Indian campgrounds. And you can make them out very easy as you drive through in a car, and actually at that time, as we drove back there, you can see some of the old fire pits.
Also, fire rings?
And it's always on the, as you cross the slope, see on the north slope of each one of those washes, west side of the sand dunes. And their camps evidently were along on that north bank facing the south. Because on the north bank is when you always saw these evidence of fire and of camp.
Yeah.
And bird bones and millions. A lot of those places down here around the Grand Extension.
So the campsites.
Yeah.
Do you remember seeing any Utes, Native Americans in the area when you first arrived?
Oh, they came up here every fall from downtown.
Yeah, the South Indians was coming in here once in a while, but they never camped.
What did they come up here for then?
I imagine just to be touring the country.
Oh.
These guys, it's because the home of their parents.
Oh.
You take, you see about 1888, 89, this Monster Cooper area was pretty well settled up. That was, and until the 1900s was quite a grain development area. And that's when all your Indians stopped coming up into this country then. Your Spanish people came in here pretty early. In fact, they were already in San Luis and in the south end of the valley, pretty heavy. And so as far as that goes, they were scattered all over the valley. But most of your Indians failed to come up in here and hunt like they used to because the game was all gone.
You come up there.
So the stories about the buffalo were just exactly that, the story. That you heard?
No, I don't think they were stories.
No, but I mean, you didn't see any buffalo around
There was buffalo on the French Shell. I came out here the first time in 1919. Yeah, 1919. And as we came over the vehicle passed on the train. That morning, about 5 o'clock in the morning, I was up. That was the first time I was ever in the mountains. I was up all eyes looking at everything I could, and at that time, Billy Hanson ran cattle on the Trinchero Ranch. And I was so thrilled because here was a bunch of cattle following the trail down off the mountain. And right behind was a big old buffalo followed along. And then I know that summer at what's the name of the ranch north of Blanket, Fort Garland, Arrowhead. He threw a big 4th of July celebration and he fed us buffalo hamburgers that day.
That's the first buffalo I ever eat. That's why you talk.
They served the buffalo sandwiches. That was especially to get people to come out for that 4th of July celebration. That's when I found out that when a person come from lower altitude, come to this country, didn't have any wind.
Yeah. Any other questions?
I've got just one thing. We've been watching the Menlo Creek surge here. It'll be up and it'll disappear and it'll come back. Well, this summer it's down now. Right now, we've had the picnic ground. What was it like 30, 40 years ago?
Same way.
Was it?
1 year, it'd be dry all year, put that all the way back up to, where that, we call it the Ziegler cabin
Yeah.
is. It was right clear back up Francis Pizarro, just below his cabin as far back as I ever remember it drying up. But, and I used from the ranch, I could step out of my milk barn and look over here and tell you when the first water came around the end of the sand dunes. Could it shine in the morning?
Oh, really?
Right, or it just shine and I used to always kind of mark in my mind when the first water come around on Magna Creek, that I could see it. And generally, it was all gone with the 1st of July, on the average year.
Did you ever see this stream right down into the sand dunes running waves?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah.
I seen it in big waves.
Big breakers on.
Yeah.
I seen it come out of the burning button there, up there, that was, 2 foot deep, 3 feet deep in those waves.
Yeah, you take, it's always rather amusing to me. I always got a big kick out of it. You'd come over there in the fall of the year and then during the winter, and here you'd see the sand all drifted across that base of that river. And in the spring, when the water began to come, it wasn't long until all those little old heaves that had blown in there during the winter time were gone, and just a nice smooth wet bed. The water would come up. I'll be 91 next month.
You go back a good 50 years at least, or 60, 70 years?
What's that?
You know, you said probably 60 years then? Or?
65 years since I came to this country. I came here in 23. And 67 years with it.
67 years. Has Howard changed any?
No.
He came a couple years after.
Has he changed any all the time you know?
Like what?
Has Howard changed any?
Not in looks. Tom Glamour than I ever saw. And I think he could still climb. I wish I had legs under me like he's got under him. I'd feel pretty happy. No, sir, Howard looks just old. Of course, he's older. He's got a few wrinkles in his face. He's lost a little hair on top of his head.
Way up Florida.
Has Bill changed any, Howard? Has Bill changed?
Well, I think he's just as honored as he ever was, and I think we're just about to say this way.
So you're quite fair.
We got along all our life. I don't don't think we ever had an argument, did we?
That's been a long time.
That's great.
We never even argued over politics.
I guess the book way at the same time. We must have it, we already told us.
Yeah. Is there any other questions? Well, one of the natural resources of the dunes is a real asset, but I think one of the biggest assets are the human resources. And I think Bill and Howard and Burl, well, thank you for.
That's a lot, folks. I had just much fun as you had.
You guys are great memories. Remember all these things?
Well, that's one thing that we pride ourselves in, being able to still remember at our age.
Yeah.
Yeah, one thing I don't have any legs, but I pride my mind.
Yes, sir. Yeah, well, you got a great one.
Bill, did you remember Charlie Gams used to be?
Yeah, you said Charlie Dan was one of the first prominent men around Moscow for many years, and his brother, Kenneth, spent a good deal of time with me in my early days in the valley. In fact, he was the one that brought the sheep down, the sheep head down to sell to that fellow Mount Moses. And he's the fellow that brought me that sheep meat. Also, Howard brought me some bear meat one time, and he killed up there too. But the Gans, I knew all the Gans family very, very well.
Charlie had a place right there, just about half a mile or 3/4 mile south where he shot up there, standing. The walls are still standing,
Charlie, did you say?
Getting hit his body, and stopping, I did.
The first time I knew Charlie was living up here on the Hampton Ranch. That's just above us, right out there. He was living up there in that long house. And a lady there in Moscow passed away, and they got me to come up here to tell old Charlie that she had passed away. That was back in 1924.
When did this guy died up there in the Kathy, old man Dove, what year was that? Well, Kathy still has it.
Oh, well, we'll take it on. We'll take your time.